anybody prefer a big print of this Sidor? Because I have one to spare. If anybody would prefer the large print edition, so just let me know. Okay. Yes, yes. And we'll just do like, we don't need to do all the press that we did on forum because we're not stalling for time. Right. Yeah.
You want to call for Suke and just do what you want to do.
Okay.
Monday. All right, well. Okay, so. Many of us may or may not have had our coffee yet, so we'll go ahead and do our service so we can enjoy a bit of a celebration of learning. So I'll invite us to rise, and we should be in the maroon weekday Siyum Shalom to follow with the pages, so that we have the weekday Shacharit service. So we begin in the maroon Siyum Shalom Sidur for weekdays on page 6 with the Birkot HaShachar. We'll answer Amen to each of our morning's brachot.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan us levi'na yafchim b'yom v'layla.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'asani b'tzamo.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'asani Yisrael.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'asani bachurim.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam pokeach ivrim.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam mapi sharumim.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam matir asurim.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam zokiv kibufim.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam rogaret al hamayim.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'asa li kol tzorki.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam amechim hitalei gaver.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam azer Yisrael b'gvura.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam azer Yisrael b'tifara.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hanoten laya'ef koach.
Amen. Be seated. Let's continue at the bottom of the page.
Utneinu hayom u'chayim u'chesed u'rachamim b'einecha v'nei choreinu v'tigulenu chasadim tovim baruch atah Adonai u'mel chasadim tovim v'yamo Yisrael.
Bottom of page 7 of the box.
Asherenu masav chankinu manahim gra'alim ha'yafayim v'shatenu asher shenachnu mashkimim marivim re'er b'boker v'omrim pamayim b'chol yom Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad.
Psalm for Monday. We'll hold here and we're going to jump ahead to page 86.
Yiseh Elohim, Eloheinu olam va'ed, hu yinahagenu al mut.
Back to Mizmor Shir Chanukat by the David, page 14.
Mizmor Shir Chanukat by the David. הפכת מספדי למחולי, פיצחת שקיבת עזרי שמחה, למען ישמח חבל, יתום אדוני אלוהי בעולמותיך.
Dish Yato, mourners Kaddish, I invite all who are in mourning or observing yahrzeit or any permits you're accustomed to do so to rise. Page 15. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah. Ve'alma divra chirute ve'amlich malchute. V'chayechon uvyomechon uvchaye dechol beit Yisrael. Va'agala uvizman kari ve'imru amen. Yehi shmei rabbah mevarach le'elam umei amaya. Yitbarach ve'yishtabach ve'yitpa'ar ve'yitromam ve'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal. Shmei dekudesha berechu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tush bechata v'nechemata. Da'amiran be'alma ve'imru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya. V'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen. Rise, we turn to Baruch Shamar, page 16.
Baruch Shamar v'hayalam
Baruch
Baruch. Yachid Chei Ha'olamim, Melech Mishubachim V'Arei Shema Hagadol, Baruch Atah Adonai, Melech Mulal Bat Yishbachot.
Seated.
Continue on page 21 for Ashrei.
Ashrei, page 21.
Ashrei Ashrei V'Tech Adilu Chaseva. Tila Adonai Dober Pi V'Varech Kol Basar Shem Kol Shel Elam Ba'er V'Anachnu Nivarech Yah V'Yatzav Olam Hallelujah.
25, halfway down the page for Psalm 150.
Hallelujah, hallelujah, Bekosho, hallelujah, Kiyoso, hallelujah, Kirotav, hallelujah, Kirohulo, hallelujah, take a shofar, hallelujah, Benel Bechinor, hallelujah, Tolfumacho, hallelujah, Mini Vildav, hallelujah, Tisalei Shama, hallelujah, Tisalei Truma, Kol Neshama Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Kol Neshama Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Continue at the top of page 27 for as we rise.
Rise for Shirah.
Vaya Israel et he'ala gedolah asher asad Adonai b'Mitzrayim vayir'u ha'am et Adonai vayaminu v'Adonai Moshe avdo az yashir Moshe b'nei Yisrael et hashira az Adonai vayom ne'or hashira Adonai yigah Susro Ramavaya Osim simratia, Vayirhi Yeshua, Ze'eve'ave'avi'aramen. Adonai Yimloch le'olam ha'ed. Adonai Yimloch le'olam ha'ed. Adonai Mulcham Shabokayim Ve'elam Lashim Harti Only Shporet Harisav Vaytal Adonai Hamlucha Vayadonai Lamelech HaKol Haaretz Vayamahu Adonai Echad U'Shmo Echad Yishtabach Shemcha La'ad Malkeinu. Baruch atah Adonai, El Melech Gadol Batishbachot, El Haodot Adon Haniflaot, Habocher B'Shirei Zimra, Melech El Olamim. Amen. V'Davi Kadosh Mirabah. Amen. Yamad Yisrael Kibbutzev Lech Malchutei, B'Chayachon V'Mechon Chayir Chavei Yisrael, B'Galav Yizman Karim V'Imru. Amen. Yeshmeram Baruch Yishalach V'Pravi Shalom Yinasei D'Davi L'Levi L'Lal Shmei Kutsha Brichu Le'elam Min Kol Bechata V'Shirata Tishbechata V'Nechamata Zamiran Be'alama V'Imru. Amen.
Page 30.
Baruch Hu et Adonai Hamvorach. Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Le'olam Va'ed.
Be seated.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Say Shalom Arim Takol. Le'Rachamim.
31.
V'chulam pozochim v'pihem b'kedusha tzahara v'shira u'zimra v'arachim v'shavachim v'parim v'aitim v'matishim v'mamlechim et shemai ha'melech ha'gadol yivol ha'kadosh. V'chulam mekabelim aleichem malchut shamayim zemizeh v'nozenim l'shut zelazeh le'atiseh zeram v'nachat ruach b'safav v'ravnim ha'kedosha v'lam kecharonim e'orim v'hira kadosh
Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh,
V'alfanim v'chayal ha'kodesh pashgadol v'masayim v'maserafim v'matam v'shabachim v'homerim Baruch Adonai Nimho. Or Hadash on Zion, Tahir v'nizkechu anim meira leoro, meira leoro. Baruch atah Adonai, Yosef ha'me'orot.
Hava Rabbah is on page 32. We'll gather our tzitzit here and continue straight into the Shema on page 33 and 34.
Hava Rabbah Adonai. Avinu shalom back and forth haaretz v'zolichinu komivu li'atenu yavo elishuot ato v'adavar harta mikolam b'lashon v'girat hamashim halelo sela bemet v'godol yachem b'yahava baruch atah Adonai v'avoler b'mo Yisrael b'yahava Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha v'chol levavecha v'chol nafshecha v'chol yeddecha v'hayu ha'dvarim ha'ele asher Elohim etzavecha Hayom levavecha v'shinotam v'lecha v'lecha v'tivecha v'lecha v'lecha v'tireh Shofecha v'mecha v'kshartam leot al yadecha v'hayu tosafot bein einecha v'chsavtam al mezuzot beitecha v'yisharecha. Vayomer Adonai Moshe lemor daber l'bnei Yisrael v'marta leihem v'yasu lahem tzitzit al pagdevetehem v'tototav v'natnu v'tzitzit al panav v'tzitzit v'haya lachem l'tzitzit uritem oto Sartem v'mitzvot Adonai v'ksitem tam V'lotatu v'acharehem Asher temzonim acharehem Leman tizgeru v'ksitem v'mitzvot Yitem v'noshim v'lechem Ani Adonai Elohim Asher yitzei t'yechem eretz Mitzrayim Li'od lachem l'Elohim Ani Adonai Elohim Adonai Echad Dor vador hu kayam mishma kayam v'chisar lachanu v'chosov v'manazalak kayamer.
Third seat or third paragraph on page 34.
Shata hodon elinu v'layavotinu makinu malachavotinu g'orlinu v'alavotinu yotru tzorish yotinu potinu matilenu melam shenecha Ein Elohim zulatecha Ezra davotinu atavinu
Page 35.
Yilolel Yom Baruch Hu Borach Moshe Minister Chanan V'Shira Simcha Rabba V'Yamru Kulam Mi Chamacha V'Adim Adonai Mi Chamacha Netar B'Kodesh Norati Lot Kosef Delesh Rachadash Hashi B'Kulilim V'Shimcha Sebatayam Yachad Kulam Utovim Lichu V'Ameru Adonai Yimlo Le'olam Va'ed
Please rise.
Yisrael Umar Yisrael
Begin our Shacharit Amidah on page 36b through the Kedusha on 37, and then continue individually through page 44.
Baruch atah Adonai Elohim Eloheinu Elohei Abraham Elohei Yitzchak Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Gibor Benora Elion Gomer Chazadim Tovim V'Konei Hakol V'Zocher Chasei Avot Mevi Goel Livnei Le'am Leman Shemo V'Yahava Melech Ozer Eloheinu Moshiach Magen Baruch atah Adonai Magen Abraham Elohim Sarah Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai Mechayim Itim Atarav Le'Yoshiach Mashiv Ruach U'Morid HaGashem Echal Chaim Bechesed Mechayim Itim B'Rachamim Rabim Somech Novelim V'Rofech Olim Matzias V'Lim Chayim V'Natzot V'Shivei Afar Nifamoch Aval V'Rot V'Yidom Melach Melech V'Mit Chayim Matzias Yeshua Le'eman Atzala V'Yidom V'Yitrim Baruch atah Adonai Mechayim V'Yitrim Nikadesh Shimcha Balam, Shishon Tishim Tovishme Baram, Chagab Tovei Alemiyecha, Bikarat Sel Zev Yamar, Shkadosh Kadosh Kadosh Tzvah, L'Lohor Tzvah, L'Muatam Baruch Yameru, Shechach Tuvim Mor. Nedor Badar Hagikot Lecha, Unetzal Pesachim Kedushavcha Nafish, V'Shifacha Eloheinu Yivinu Yamosh Le'lam Va'el Ki HaMelech Gadol, V'Kadosh Atah Baruch Atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh.
are still davening your individual Shachrit Amidah, continue to do so. Otherwise, we can turn to Chatzi Kaddish, page 47.
Yikara vikara shmiraba.
Amen.
Yamati vakir tevim lichmachote. V'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayechon Beit Yisrael. Agalavis mankarivim ramein.
Amen.
Barak v'shabach v'parvit shemam v'naseh. Ita davit alavit alash min kusha.
Brechu.
Elam mikol b'chata v'shirata. Tushbachata v'nechamata zamiram be'almavim ramein.
Amen. Turn to the Torah service. Rise and turn to page 65.
Vayhivim
Please
Salah Aaron Vayomer Moshe U'Adonai v'Yitzchak V'Yavim V'Yisanecha V'Yipanecha V'Yitzion Tetzei Torah V'Yitzion Shalayim Baruch Shem Torah L'Chol Yisrael V'Kedushato. Adonai iti yomer mashino yachda. Adonai hagitula v'raga tikar v'anetzach v'hahod. Ki chol v'shamayim v'aretz. Adonai hamamlacha v'amin aseh l'chol erosh. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu v'yishtachavu l'hadom raglav kadoshu. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu v'yishtachavu l'har kudsha. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu.
Seated. Normally, a weekday Torah reading is the reading for the upcoming Shabbat, except that when we have a Shabbat Chol HaMoed, we jump all the way to the next Torah portion that will be read on a Shabbat. So this morning we are already looking ahead to Parashat Acharei Mot. When you can follow along with Michael for our Torah readings at the back of the Maroon Sidur on page 292.
Abraham Ariel ben Yahuwah Kohen, Verika Halevi, Baruch Shem Torah, Louis Rabbi Kedushato.
Yashem Avim Hadim Kofem Hayom. Baruch Adonai Barach. Baruch Navarach Le'Lamed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Asher B'Karvanu Mikol Mi V'Natan Lanu Et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah. Amen. Vaydaber Adonai al Moshe, Acharei Moshe, Shnei b'nei Aharon, v'karvatam lifnei Adonai, vayamutu, vayomer Adonai al Moshe, daber el Aharon achicha, v'yayavo b'chol eit, el hakodesh, mipei laparochet, el pnei hakaporet, asher al Aharon v'lo yamut, ki ve'anan ere al hakaporet. V'zo yavo Aharon el hakodesh, b'far ben bakar, el chatat v'ayol le'olah. Bad Kodesh Yobash, Bad Yoabis Aro, Bad Yakur, Misnefet Bad Yitznov, Kodesh Ein Varachas B'Mayim, Elevation, Umeid Adab in Israel, Yikash Nesirei Izim Lechatat, Ayol Echad Le'olah, V'Ikriv Aron, and Parhatat Asher Lo, Be'aviado Vad Beto.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam nata b'tocheinu Baruch atah Adonai noten Torah.
Amen.
Yeshua, Yehoshua ben David Alevi V'Chanan.
Baruch Hu and Adonai HaBorach. Baruch Adonai HaBorach Le'olam Moed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Asher B'Charbanu Mikol Ha'amim V'Natan Lanu Et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen. Amen. V'lakach et shnei hasirim v'amidot otam lifnei Adonai petach kol hamoed. V'natan Aharon al shnei hasirim goralot goral echad l'Adonai v'goral echad l'Azazel. V'hi kriv Aaron et hasir asher Allah hagoral l'Adonai. V'asach chatat v'haseir asher Allah hagoral l'Azazel. Yamot chai l'ifnei Adonai l'chaper alav. V'shalach oto l'Azazel hamidbara. V'ikriv Aharon et paratat asher lo. V'chiper biado v'ad beito v'shachad et parchatat asher lo.
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Asher Natan Lanu Torah Emet V'Chayei Olam Nata B'Tocheinu. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen.
Abraham Spivi Hudi Balia Shlishni.
Baruch Hu Adonai Baruch Adonai Baruch Eloheinu Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Asher Bachar Bani Mikol Amim V'Natan Lanu Et Torato Baruch Atah Adonai Noten Torah.
Amen. V'lakach melo ha'makta, kach le'esh me'al mizbeach milifnei Adonai, u'melo hafnav k'toret samim daka, v'vi mibei laparochet, v'natan et ha'ketoret al ha'esh lifnei Adonai, v'kisa anan ha'ketoret et ha'kaporet asher al ha'edut, v'lo yamut, mut. V'lakach midam hapar v'zav etzma'o al pnei hakaporet kedma u'livnei hakaporet yazeh sheva pamim min hadam b'etzma v'shachad et tzir hatar asher la'am v'avi et amo el mibeit laparochet v'yasat amo kasher asala adam hapar V'hiza al kaporet v'lidei al kaporet v'chi per al hakodesh mitkumot b'nei Yisrael mipshehem l'chol chatatam v'chein yaseh l'ol hamoed hashachen otam v'tam b'tok tumotam v'chol adam lo yeh b'ol hamoed v'vo l'chaper b'kodesh ad seito v'yado v'ad beito v'yad kol kahal Yisrael.
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Asher Natan Lanu Torah Emet V'Chayei Olam Nata B'Tocheinu. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten Torah.
Please rise for the Chatzi Kaddish before the lifting and dressing of our Torah. We'll remain standing for the lifting and dressing. Torah, Asher Moshe, Livni Israel Piadona, Moshe, Shlosha Devarim, Al Shlosha Devarim, Al Shlosha Devarim, Olam Omer, Al Shlosha Devarim, Al Shlosha Devarim, Shlosha Devarim, Olam Omer. Al HaTorah ve'al ha'avodah ve'al gemilut hasadim. Al HaTorah ve'al ha'avodah ve'al gemilut hasadim. We're not going to do the full page because we don't on days when we don't say Tachanun, which we don't for the entire month of Nisan. But I want to point out on the bottom paragraph on page 72, the final paragraph, this is where the prayer that we have been including on Shabbat mornings for release of the captives is initially sourced. It's from the weekday Torah service in this moment after the Torah is read and before it's put away. And especially as we go into a celebration of our freedom, I think this prayer is important to still include this one this morning, bottom paragraph, page 72. We can turn to page 76 and remain standing as we return our Sefer Torah to the Ark.
Yehalelu Shem Adonai, Ki Yiskav Shemo Levato, Odo Leretz Shemayim Vayar, Lemo Tila Choseta, Bnei Yisrael Bravo, Hallelujah. V'taviv Mismor, Adonai Haaretz U'lo Atevel V'yoshvei Ki Al Yamim Yisata, Ve'ol Nehamot Yifoneder. Me Yahweh Adonai, Umi Yakum Biko Kacho Neki Papani Mubar Leva, Asher Lo Nasar Lashav Nafshi, Velo Nishva Mirma, Isa Bracha B'Yeit Adonai. U'mitzvah Elohei Yishose, Tor Sham Mevav Shefanecha, Yaakov Selam, Zusharim Rashechem, Ve'yasu B'chei Olam, Ve'yavo Melech HaKavod, Mizeh Melech HaKavod, Adonai Yisus V'Gibor, Adonai Gibor Yochavav, Zusharim Rashechem, $77. Yitzchaim Hilma Chazikimba, Betomachem Merushar, Dirachem Adarcheno, Bechol Netivat Hashalom, Hashivin Adonai Bechol Hashuba, Chadesh Yameinu Bekedem.
Turn to Asher, you can be seated as we turn to Asher, page 78.
Hallelujah.
We turn page 80.
יפתחו בחיי שמך כי לא עזת דרשך אדוני, אדוני חפש למענתי כה יגדיר תורה וידיר.
Adi Shalem, page 82. You can stand or sit according to your custom.
יקרא ויקרא שמי רבה.
אמן.
ימתי ברכו שבילמית מלכותי בחי יכולים ויכולים חי לכל בית ישראל. מגלה ישמן קריבים רמי. יברך וישבח ויתפור ויתרומם נעשה וידע דוד אללה שמי קודשה בריחו. לעילה מכל ברכתה ושירתה תשפחתה ונחמתה זמירם בעמך וימרומי. שבת לטונבת להונדך ישראל כולם להונדי וישמעיה וימרומי. יש למה רבה מן שמעיה וחיים עלינו וכל ישראל וימרומי. ועושה שלום ימרום ויעשה שלום עלינו וכל ישראל וימרומי.
Rise for Aleinu, page 83.
Alinu l'shabbeach l'Adonai hu l'teiv l'aluf zereshit shelo asanu k'kliyei ha'aratzot v'lo asamanu k'mishpachot ha'adama shelo sam v'keinu kahem v'goharanu k'kol hamona v'na'at korim u'mishachamim modim l'ifnei melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu. Adonai loch le'lam va'erev v'ne'emar v'haya Adonai melech kol ha'aretz hayom ha'u yeh Adonai echad u'shemo
Kadish Yatom, page 84. I invite all those who are in mourning or observing yahrzeit, many for whom it's your custom to do so, to remain standing. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabah. Be'alma divra chirute be'amlich malchute. Be'chayechon uvyomechon uvchaye dechol beit Yisrael. Ba'agala uvizman kari ve'imru amen. Yehi Shmei Rabba Mevarach Le'olam Umei Omaya. Yitbarach V'yishtabach V'yitpa'ar V'yitromam V'yitnaseh V'yitadar V'yitaleh V'yitalal Shemei Dekudesha B'rechu Le'ela Min Kol Birchata V'shirata Tushbechata V'nechemata Da'amiran Be'alma Ve'imru Amen. Yehi Shlama Rabba Min Shemaya V'chaim Aleinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael Ve'imru Amen. Oseh Shalom Bimromav Huya Aseh Shalom Aleinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael Ve'imru Amen. One who creates peace on high, grant peace to us, to all Israel, and to all who mourn. We'll now move to you. You're welcome to leave your tefillin on or remove, but I will ask that if you're going to remove, you're going to pause to listen, or even just release your hand if you want. But Alan and Brad have been studying. Masechet Baba Kama, the full Talmud volume, not just Mishnah. They've gone the whole way in with Talmud Baba Kama, and they're going to share a little bit of their impressions and learning from this, and by us witnessing and hearing their teachings and participating in their Kaddish to conclude their learning, all of us have to celebrate a meal with afterwards with them. So if you were a firstborn planning to fast today, congratulations, you have to have breakfast with Alan and Brad after they teach us a bit this morning. I will turn it over to the two of them.
Okay, Tov. I'm going to be giving the general introduction to the entire Bava Kama, and then Brad's going to do the actual ending of the Masechet. This tractate is called Bava Kama, which means first gate, because it is the first of a group of 3 tractates: Bava Kama, Bava Metzia, and Bava Basra, which is the last gate. According to the Amor Rav Yosef, they are not, in fact, separate tractates, but 3 parts, each consisting of 10 chapters of one large tractate called Nezikim, literally, which means damages. Bava Kama deals mainly with the laws of damages. The Torah forbids a person to do damage with the body or property of another. He may not do damage with his own body or physical force, or neglect to prevent his property, such as an animal, from doing damage, or create a hazard, such as a fire or a pit that can do damage. If he causes damages in any of these ways, the Torah commands him to pay the victim for his loss. The person responsible for the damage is called mazik, and the one who suffered the damage is called ikak. The damaging force that is mentioned in the Torah is called av, which is literally father. Any damaging force that is similar to av but is not mentioned in the Torah is called Todah, literally descendant. So there are 4 kinds of damages that Bava Kama discusses. First one is the person himself. One is liable for damage he does with his body or physical force to another person's body or property. And this is contained in Exodus chapter 21, verses 18 through 19. If men quarrel and one strikes his fellow with a stone or a fist, and he does not die but falls into bed, if he gets up and goes outside under his own power, the one who struck is absolved. Only for his lost time he shall pay, and he shall provide for healing. Another part of Exodus, chapter 21, verses 22 through 25, states, if men fight and collide with a pregnant woman and she miscarries, but there is no fatality, he shall surely be punished, as the husband of the woman shall be assessed against him, and he shall pay it by the order of the judges. But if there shall be a fatality, then you shall order life for life, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, a hand for hand, foot for foot, burn for burn, wound for wound, and a bruise for bruise. And the final part of damages is contained in Leviticus chapter 24, 18 through 21. And a man who strikes mortally an animal life shall make restitutions, a life for a life, so on, wound for a wound, break for a break, and so on. If one injures a person, he must pay the victim for as many as 5 things where applicable. Nekez, which is damage, which is reckoned as the difference between the victim's theoretical value as a slave before the injury and afterward. Sa'ar, which is pain, the physical pain suffered by the physical. Ripu, which is healing, the victim's medical expenses. Shevet, which is loss of work, compensation for the money that the victim could have earned during his recovery. And Boshet, which is embarrassment, the embarrassment caused by the attack. Payment for the 4 things other than nezek, damage, applies only to one person injures another person. They do not apply to where one property injures a person or when person injures an animal. Now we're talking about animal. Damage done by an animal is divided into 3 categories. Sheen, which is literally tooth, the Torah speaks of an animal that does damage through eating. In Exodus 22, verse 4, the man permits livestock to devour a field or vineyard, whether he set loose his livestock or he grazed in it another's field. The best of his field and the best of his vineyard he shall pay. Thus, eating is the av of this category in the Toldot, including activities that are similar to eating insofar as they are normal activities from which the animal benefits. As an example is where an animal scratches its back against the wall for its pleasure and thereby damages the wall. The animal's owner must pay for sheen damages only if the animal entered the field or another property of the victim and did damage there. He is not liable for sheen damage in the public place. Next part is regel, which is foot. The av of this category is animal does damage with his foot in the course of normal walking. And the toldot is where the animal does damage with other parts of his body, such as carrying or moves in a normal way if the body brushes against an object and breaks it. And as in the case of the sheen, the owner only pays for damage done to the property of the victim. Karen is the av where the animal intentionally gores a person or another animal with its horns. Other types of intentional damage, such as pushing, biting, and kicking, are toldots of Karen. Since intentional damage is unusual for most animals, the category also includes activity that is unusual. Thus, whenever an animal does damage in an unusual way, the rules of Karen apply. With respect to Karen, there are 2 types of animal. The tam, was simply the innocent, who does not gore less than 4 times, and a moad, which is literally somebody who's warned as a habitual gorer. The pit. Person may not create a hazard in a public place where it could cause damage to people and animals by passing by. One does create such a hazard as it causes the injury to a person, animal, or animal, he must pay the damage. The av of this category is digging a pit and neglecting it to cover it, which is found in Exodus 33 to 34, chapter 21. The man shall uncover a pit, or if a man shall dig a pit and not cover it, an ox or a donkey fell into it, the owner of the pit shall make restitution. He shall return money to his owner, and the carcass shall be his. A pit is different from other categories in that it does not move, rather it is rather the injured party went into it. A similar hazard is a tolda, for example, a stone that leaves on a public street, which in other words, an animal walks on the stone, then shoots the stone out from under its foot. One fails to cover its pit and an animal falls in and is killed or he injured, he must pay full damages for the animal. However, the Torah decrees that he is not liable to pay the damage to an inanimate objects. Thus, if an animal that is carrying utensils fell into a pit and the utensils broke, he need not pay for the utensils. He also must pay, though, if a person falls in and is injured. But if not liable for damage, the person is killed, which still is confusing to me. And then the last part is fire. Fire is also liable for damage done by fire that he lit or owns and fails to prevent from spreading. Outlined in Exodus chapter 22, verse 5. Fire shall go forth and find thorns and a sack of grain, or a standing crop, or a field that is consumed. One who kindled the fire shall make restitution. Fire tends to travel to what is destroyed by means of wind or natural force. Among the toldot of this category, therefore, is where a person leaves a stone on a roof and the wind blows it off, causing it to fall on an object and break it. Now Brad will finish up the Masechet for us.
So I'm gonna do the last sugya of here. They've been talking about in this part, trying to figure out if you're if you're the craftsperson working on something, the pieces that get left over or that you might remove, do they belong to the craftsman, or do they belong to the customer? So the Mishnah teaches that which the carpenter removes with an adze, which is similar to an axe, but it's a little smaller and the blade goes perpendicular to the handle rather than in the same direction as the handle. But what belongs to him, the carpenter, but what he removes with an axe belongs to the customer. So there's a contradiction's raised from a Baraita, which is a Mishnaic teaching that did not make it into, or Mishnaic era teaching that did not make it into the Mishnah. That which the carpenter removes with an adze and that which is severed with a saw belong to the customer. But with regard to that which comes out from under a drill or under a plane, and that which is scraped by the saw, such as sawdust, these belong to the carpenter. So it contradicts the Mishnah. Rava said, in the place of the Tana of our Mishnah, so the person who wrote the Mishnah, there are two kinds of blades used by carpenters. The larger blade is called an axe, and the smaller one is called an adze. By contrast, in the place of the Tana of this Baraita, where they said the customer keeps it, there's only one carpenter's blade, and they called it an adze. Therefore, the adze referred to in the Baraita is actually an axe, and so the rulings are the same. The Mishnah teaches, and if he was doing his work in the domain of the customer, so at the customer's house, then even the sawdust belongs to the customer. The sages taught, stone chiselers are not in violation of a transgression due to the prohibition against robbery if they take the leftover chips of rock. Furthermore, with regard to those who prune trees, those who prune vines, those who trim shrubs, those who weed plants, and those who hoe vegetables, the halakha is dependent upon the owner's inclination. When the owner is particular about the plant trimmings, the workers are in violation of a transgression due to the prohibition against robbery if they take the trimmings. But if the owner is not particular about them, then those items belong to the workers. Rav Yehuda says daughter, which is basically similar to hops for beer, and green grain are not subject to the prohibition against robbery as they grow on their own and no one tends to them. But in a place where people are particular about the ownership of daughter and green grain, then they are subject to the prohibition against robbery. Ravina said, and the city of Mechasya is a city where residents are particular about daughter and green grain. So that they are, so it's the being aware of which pieces are which. So Hadran Allah Gozel Batra Uslikala Masechet Bavakama. And with that, I believe I handed everybody.
Grab this sheet. It's going to recite, there's a formula on the side that does not have a kaddish for the concluding of the reading of and the study, not just reading, the study of a Masechet of a Talmud. You'll notice it says, we'll return to you. That's the opening. We always come to conclude our learning, anticipating the next time we'll come back to it. I think here, the deep holiness of how we interact with others and other creatures on this earth and other craftspeople on this earth. So Brad will recite this. You can follow along with him. You don't need to recite with him, but you can follow along with him on the side of the page that begins with Hadran Alach Masechet.
Hadran Alach Masechet Bava Kama veHadrach Alan, Datan Alach Masechet Bava Kama veDatach Alan, La Nit Neshem Minach Masechet Bava Kama veLatit Neshem Minan, La Ba'alma Hadein ve'La Ba'alma Date, Hadran Alach Masechet Bava Kama veHadrach Alan, Datan Alach Masechet Bava Kama veDatach Alan, La Nit Neshem Minach Masechet Bava Kama veLatit Neshem Minan, La Ba'alma Hadein ve'La Ba'alma Date, Hadran Alach Masechet Bava Kama veHadrach Alan, Datan Alach Masechet Bava Kama veDatach Alan, La Nit Neshem Minach Masechet Bava Kama ve'La Tit Neshem Minan, La Ba'alma Hadein ve'La Ba'alma Date, Yihiratzon Mefanecha Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu, Shetehei Toratecha Umanutenu Ba'olam Hazeh Utehei Imanu Le'olam Haba. Chanina bar Papa, Rame bar Papa, Nachman bar Papa, Achai bar Papa, Abba Mari bar Papa, Rafram bar Papa, Rachish bar Papa, Surchav bar Papa, Ada bar Papa, Daru bar Papa. Ha'arevna Adonai Eloheinu et divrei Toratecha befinu uvefi amcha beit Yisrael v'nihiyah anachnu b'tzetza'enu b'tzetza'e amcha beit Yisrael kulani odei shemecha v'lomdei Toratecha lishma me'oevai techakmini mitzvotecha ki leolam hi yehi libi tamim b'chukecha lema'an lo evosh leolam lo eshkach pikudecha kivam chiyitani baruch ata Adonai lamdeni Lukecha, amen, 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 salava ed. Modim anachnu lefanecha Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu, shesamta chalkenu meyoshvei beit hamidrash v'lo samta chalkenu meyoshvei kuranot, she'anu mashkimim v'hem mashkimim, anu mashkimim lidivrei Torah, v'hem mashkimim lidvarim b'telim, anu amelim v'hem amelim. Anu amelim umekablim sachar v'hem amelim ve'enam mekablim sachar. Anu ratzim v'hem ratzim. Anu ratzim l'chayei olam haba. V'hem ratzim liv er shachat. Shene'emar ve'ata Elohim toridem liv er shachat. Anshe damim umirma lo yechatzu yemeihem v'ani evtach bach. Yihiratom mefanech Adonai Elohai kashem she'azartani l'sayem masechet bava kama. Kain ta'azreni lahadchil masechtot usfarim acherim usayameh. Ulsaimam, Wilmod Ulamed Lishmor Velasot Ulkayem Ekol Divrei Talmud Toratacha Be'ahava, Uzechut Kol HaTanaim Ve'amoraim Be'talmidei Chachamim Ya'amod Li Ulzari Shalot Tamush HaTorah Mipi Umipi Zari Ve'zera Zari Ad Olam. Ve'yitkayem Bi Be'hit Halechecha Tanche Otach B'Shochbecha Tishmor Alecha Ve'ha Yitzota hi tisichecha kivi yirbu yamecha ve'yosifu lecha shnot chayim orech hamim b'yamina b'smola osher v'chavod Adonai oz le'amo yitain Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom.
Let's rise for the Kaddish on the other side.
Yigadal v'kadash shemei rabah.
Amen.
Be'alma dihu atid le'ichadata u'achaya metaya u'asaka yathon lechaye alma u'mivnei karta dir shalem Ulshachlala hechla bagava umekar pochana nuchra'a me'ar'a bela'atava pochana dishmaya le'atre v'yamlich kedusha berichu b'machute v'karei b'chayechon u'yamechon u'b'chayei dechol beit Yisrael ba'agala u'bizman kari v'imru amen. Yehi shmei rabba mevarach le'olam le'omayim. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitalev v'yithalal shemei dekudesha b'richu le'elah min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran v'alma v'yimru amen. Al Yisrael v'al Rabbanan v'al Talmidehon v'al kol Talmidehon. V'al kol man de'oskin be'oraita di ve'atra hadain v'di v'chol atar ve'atar. Yehi lahon uchon shlama rabba Lina v'chista v'racha min v'chaye ariche u'mazone reviche u'furkana min kodam abuhon di v'shmaya v'imru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim tovim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav Hu ya'aseh barachamav shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen.
Amen. Yasher koach to Alan and to Brad on your lots of study, and so we now have to help them celebrate. Then therefore, you should have a little nosh with them in the next room if you're here, or in their honor if you're joining from live stream or Zoom, or if you have to run. But yasher koach, and thank you. And I will have, for those in the room, if you've not yet submitted, if you missed yesterday's deadline for submitting your form to sell your chametz, I'll have some blank forms in there in a few moments. And the last time to eat chametz this morning is at 10:13. I thought it was 11:13. 10:13. Hi, 10:13 is your last minute to eat chametz, and by 11:13, any that you found in your house last night should be destroyed, burned, flushed down the toilet, however you want to get rid of it. And I hope that everyone has a Zisten Pesach and a wonderful Seder tonight. Chag Sameach.